Hey guys, I'm not so sure if this is live yet. I think in a couple of seconds it will be. But already, hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here and welcome back to another episode of the daily crypto news in live stream form. Again, today we got a ton of juicy, interesting news to cover. And I sometimes wonder why the stream automatically starts. Oh, I have automatically start on because my settings reset. All good, all good, all good. It's all good, all good, all good. What's up, guys? Today we got a juicy amount of news. I'm actually pretty surprised with the amount of coins that the amount of news that we got for today. I think if I show you guys the list, you'll be shocked. But I'm gonna try go through it in some sort of reasonable pace. All right. So just to quickly show you guys what I have for right now, you can see this little bar of everything that I'd actually like to cover in this live stream. But we're gonna see if we can fit this all into about 25 minutes or so. All this juicy news, all these juicy articles, all these juicy, interesting pieces. So everybody, if you're enjoying these daily crypto live streams, I said I'm going to do one every single day. Then make sure you press that like button. It is greatly appreciated. It just helps these streams and videos be shown to more people. And that's all you're doing. Just helping me out. It is greatly appreciated. And all right, so let us dive right in. Also, from I think a couple of days on forward, just got a new microphone, got a new camera, got a new, all these little pieces, got new lights, got new everything. So hopefully production quality is going to be better in a couple of days from now as well, as I've already got everything. I just have to set everything up. That's going to be pretty cool. All right, so let's dive right in. Things are going to move rapidly. That is the title of this stream. You guys have to understand one thing. Because of FTX, everybody is basically screwed. I had a couple of conversations with people that are invested in crypto, but not in a day-to-day like we are. A lot of us are living and breathing crypto every single day. Now, these people keep asking me, hey, I've heard on the news that crypto is having their troubles. What's exactly going on? The answer is pretty simple. Crypto right now is still growing. It's growing as hard as it ever was. The only problem is, on the consumer side, there's a lot of fear. And on the institution side, even though they're massively buying, the regulatory pressure is higher than ever. And we can see that back in a lot of these articles that, well, they're looking to go for some sort of regulatory pull or push, basically, in the next couple of weeks. Some heavy pieces are going to be dropping. Okay, I thought there was something scary going on. Sean says right there, you're telling me not everyone is tuning into the daily live stream? Massive L for them. Guys, just quickly put in the chat box what country you're watching from. We always do that. It's a tradition. Whenever we live stream, you have to put in the chat box where you're watching this from. You guys, actually, some of you guys did not put it yet. That is a shame. We do this every single stream. We got to keep some routines in there, you know? My brothers. But welcome back, everybody. Tristan, Tommy, Sean, the locals. I guess Ben was the first one in Ben Newland. Shout out to you, my brother. Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody back to another crypto video. All right, so let's start. U.S. Senate Committee hearing on FTX fail brings gaps in regulatory authority to light. So as I stated earlier, things are going to start to move really fast. Right now, there's already a little bit of a friction between the SEC and CFTC. And right now, the CFTC chair, Rostin Behnam, appeared before a Senate Agriculture Committee. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, but all right, to talk about how FTX happened and how it could have been prevented. Maybe the farmers really wanted to know. Not so sure why that place is appropriate. Maybe just, no, I don't know. United States Commodity Futures and Trading Commission, CFTC, the chair of that, told a Senate on Nutrition, Forestry Committee, and Agriculture, again, not the most crypto-friendly place, but all right, meeting today, that his agency's regulations contain core elements that have served the markets for decades. But as the fallout from the FTX collapse gets sorted out, notable gaps in current legislation have come to light. Behnam and senators agreed. Now, Senator Tina Smith called the FTX collapse shocking but not surprising, and said that future crises will continue to occur as long as regulatory gaps remain. Again, we should add that this company was not a U.S. company, so regardless of what policy they had in the U.S., it could have potentially still not been prevented. Behnam pointed out that the SEC has the authority to require basic safeguards in place, such as separation of house and customer money and best execution of investment trades. We all know how to do this, Benham said. Nonetheless, he stated in his opening remarks, quote, invariably, the questions we are all obligated to answer as regulators are, how do you let this happen? And how will you prevent this from happening again? Without new authority for the CFTC, there will remain gaps in the federal regulatory framework, even if other regulators act within their existing authority. So this is, in my own opinion, one of the biggest digs at the SEC by just saying, well, it kind of seems as if the SEC didn't do their job well. Right now, there's a couple of gaps, and we have the CFTC might actually need some more authority because this is not working well. And again, that is the chair of the CFTC. I think he's also starting to acknowledge that Gary Gensler is going for a little bit too much of a power grab. Benham has lobbied for greater authority for his agency for months, and he alluded to alleged conflict between the CFTC and SEC when he dismissed talks of a power grab. Interagency cooperation is not new and will continue, Benham said. Extending CFTC authority is about filling a gap. I think the responsibilities would be the same between the SEC and CFTC with comprehensive regulation, and CFTC regulation works well when it's applicable. So that is very interesting to me, guys. What's up? What's going to happen fast? The shock in terms of crypto regulations. Now that basically just to answer the question, CH asked in the chat box, what's up? What's going to happen fast? Just to get back to what I said at the start of the stream, now that FTX is having their troubles and things are coming to light, which I'm going to show you guys more of in this live stream, things are going to happen pretty damn fast, all right? Right now, there are main and very big questions about who exactly has the authority. And even though a lot of people in the XRP community have been calling out for years now that the SEC is doing some sort of crazy grab and that the rules in the US are not clear, right now, they've put it on the map. FTX has put it on the map. It will be very, very difficult right now to make some predictions on what the crypto space will look like in 3 months from now already, because they're going to move fast, all right? The alarm bells have started tinkling left and right everywhere, and so be prepared for some massive statements to come out rather quickly and potentially some crazy crashes or crazy pumps because of these announcements. Because the CFTC chair says the DCCPA would have prevented the FTX collapse and whatnot. So a big battle is being fought right now in the background over regulatory oversight in the crypto space. And again, the majority of people will not notice this. The majority of people will not see this. But it is happening in the background and the SEC is actually being fought. But it makes me wonder, what exactly is going to happen now? Now that the CFTC is really starting to push as well as saying that the SEC made some goofy mistakes. I wonder if the CFTC chair also thinks the SEC was involved in all of this because of their strong connections between Gary Gensler and Sam Bankman-Fried. All right, to go through some other news in a little bit of a rapid pace, because there's actually quite a lot going on. Apple forces Coinbase to disable their NFT transfers on its wallet app because apparently Apple wants a 30% tax, not on NFT transactions, I believe, but on the gas fees for every single NFT transaction, potentially both of these. Here it said, as far as I've read, right? While NFTs aren't outright banned, they're subject to a hefty 30% tax on every transaction. If developers aren't able to implement that requirement, their app will be blocked from the store. Coinbase said Apple wants to take a 30% fee on any gas paid on NFT transfers completed through the wallet app, which Coinbase says is not possible. Apple's claim is that the gas fees required to send NFTs need to be paid through their in-app purchase system so they can collect 30% of the gas fee. For anyone who understands how NFTs and blockchains work, this is clearly not possible, Coinbase said. Apple's proprietary in-app purchase system does not support crypto and wouldn't comply even if we tried. So as of this point, they just have to take it off because, well, yeah, it doesn't really properly work. That again is also, funny enough, going to bring a lot of attention to the Apple App Store, as Elon Musk has also been saying they were thinking of taking Twitter off there. Not Elon Musk thinking of that, Apple thinking of taking Twitter off. Good conversation, among other things. We resolved the misunderstanding about Twitter potentially being removed from the App Store. Tim was clear that Apple never considered doing so, even though Elon Musk did show some signs that that was the case. Right now, it has supposedly been fixed and quote-unquote all is good. All right, I have a couple of crazy ones. This type of news I usually find just very good, and I just want to share it for, I guess, awareness sake. So there's a guy over in Florida man, right? That's the title. That's always how these things are titled. Sentenced to 18 months in jail, whatever, maybe prison, we'll see, for theft of over $20 million in SIM swap scheme. I wonder why it's not 18 years. It's only relatively 18 months. It's a very short amount of time, in my opinion, depending on exactly what he did. But what I want you guys to be warned of is that if you're just using one SIM card, the moment that that SIM card is involved in some sort of breach, there are going to be some guys who might literally try their best to come steal your money. So there are a couple of solutions to this very simple problem. Two-factor authentication with not a SIM, but with Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, a Authenticator key. All that stuff can easily work. Or, this is again a very good one, keep two separate phone numbers. One that is completely non-crypto, basically just all your other stuff, and one crypto phone number. Or go to a country where you need to be basically present. Like, for example, in the UAE, they have a very good system. You need to be present with your ID to get any sort of new SIM card or any sort of new thing. You have to go to the store, and there's just less SIM swapping criminality, I think, in UAE now because of this new rule that they implemented. But if you're in any other European country or US, or even India for that matter, SIM cards are a very, very dangerous place, guys, because they basically just, okay, so how it works is rather simple. What they do is they go to your provider, and because there's some sort of breach, they have your name, your address, and potentially your date of birth, your mother's name, maybe potentially even too. And so over the phone, these guys ask for verification. Hey, what's your name, date of birth, and potentially like your address? You give them all that information. So they're like, okay, it's you, right? And so you're saying, hey, I want a new SIM card. I got a SIM card, but it needs to be activated again. And so they're like, well, because I lost my phone, whatever. They're like, well, but is the address still fine? You're like, no, I'm not there right now. Send it somewhere else, as an example. Or sometimes they say, okay, we'll send it to your address, and they wait in front of your house to come grab your mail, or they, you know what I mean? But that's basically how they go about this. And that is if there's some sort of breach, and it happens quite frequently. You can lose all your money that way, so be careful with that. Just a little intermediary, all right? Adon is coming in with the $2 saying, or a YubiKey. Yeah, so you also have these sort of USB type of authenticators, basically. It's something that is sort of inconvenient because, well, you need to always have the freaking little device, but it is quote-unquote safer. Might be something to look into, guys, just for safety purposes. Man, you cannot ever be too safe, and most of these things don't really cost money. They might just cost extra effort for you to log in, but that is also extra effort for your hacker to log in, and that might actually save you all your money. So it might be worth a little bit of extra effort to log in. All right, so messaging app Telegram is moving into crypto with the launch of a decentralized exchange to fix the wrongs of centralized firms like FTX. Yeah, classic marketing. Can't say whether or not this is going to be good, but it's just classic. Well, those guys did it poorly, so here we go. We're helping you. Nah, I don't believe that. I think this is just them trying to expand, make a lot of money. Because as they said before, with their wholesale of all those names, those Telegram names, all it looked like is just one big grab for money. And even though it makes sense, that's kind of how they marketed things. So I don't really believe them in trying to fix the wrongs. Nah, I don't buy that, to be honest. It just feels like a money grab. But hey, it's good for them still, though, right? It's good for them. All right, talking about some more cool stuff, things that I personally am quite excited about, things that I personally quite like. Chainlink to introduce staking on Ethereum. There we go. On December 6th, Link rallies in response. Yeah. A couple of you guys were commenting, Dusty, why don't you cover Chainlink anymore? What's going on with you? Why not? And I said to that person, soon. And look what we got 3 days or so. Or 2 or 3, no, I think 2 days after I responded to that comment. Boom! We got ourselves some very juicy Chainlink news. Very exciting. It's not like I'm going to really use this in any way, shape, or form, but it's good. Chainlink revealed its plans to introduce its staking feature back in June as part of the new era for the network's long-term security and economic stability. Basically, sustainability, stability, in this case, kind of similar. Because it's like longevity, you want it to be basically stable and good forever, so that's the sustainability. It has now been announced that staking Link on Ethereum will begin on December 6th, so in about 4 days, 5 days from now. In June, they announced it, obviously, that it will have a lockup period of a year or two. However, following discussions, they've actually lowered that down to 9 to 12 months. Addresses eligible, determined by on-chain and off-chain activity. For the beta, Chainlink staking will be able to stake up to 7,000 Link, which as of this point is, I think, $50,000 or so. Yeah, $7, 7,000. So it should be about $50,000. But that is only for some people that are actually picked. But yeah, things are doing pretty well for Chainlink, especially in terms of attention. It's gotten a lot. In terms of price, not that much, but you know, it's doing pretty damn good. It's doing pretty damn good, in my own opinion. All right, just letting you guys know on that one. All right, interesting hit piece, I guess, over on Three Arrows Capital. You guys all know we've covered them a couple of times, right? And they've been infamous over the last couple of years, just infamous everywhere on the crypto space because they, with the Luna collapse, caused one of the biggest rumbles in the crypto space. And now, of course, we have FTX as well, which caused a lot of controversy, sure. But this was one of the biggest pieces of a downfall that had some massive ripple effects. Now, listen in. Three Arrows founders have one more week to provide key financial documents to the Singapore court. The documents would help liquidators locate funds and settle claims with the creditors of the bankrupt hedge fund. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not they will provide or whether they're going to keep running. We all know that Su Zhi and Kyle Davies, or Davis, whatever the frick, are actually pretty live on social media. I mean, they're not completely gone. Well, at least I think Suju I've seen a couple of times over on Twitter, so we know they're still out there. But the question, in my own opinion, is what exactly are they going to provide, as the High Court has requested this? Or whether just keep everything hidden and stay away everywhere. It's going to be interesting to watch this unfold over the next couple of days, I guess, because they have one more week. So we're going to be seeing that rather shortly. Very interesting, in my opinion. All right. Hopefully this does not play. There we go. Watch. Commodities Futures Trading Commission Chairman asked Congress to move quickly on crypto bill. Here we go already. What I just told you guys is, again, that the CFTC, for all of you that do not know, this is one of the most important entities over in the U.S., that the CFTC is basically keeping their eyes out, all right? They're keeping their eyes out saying, hey, what you're doing with the SEC is not that good. They're getting too much power. There are a couple of gaps because of the way the SEC right now is in place. We might need some more. You need to go fast, Congress. And you can see right now, in that same agricultural place, which is kind of vague, but okay, they're telling the Congress to move quickly on the crypto bill. So for anybody asking, why did I put it's going to happen quickly in the title? It's going to happen quickly. Just you wait. All of a sudden, things are going to be set in motion. And before, maybe, right? Maybe, just maybe, think with me here. Maybe Sam Bankman-Fried was the guy lobbying, putting a lot of money in there for crypto regulations to not be done as quickly, for things to stay vague so he could kind of maneuver his way around, make a bunch of money. And now that he's taken off the table, the Congress can move really fast because, well, no more money coming into politicians, no more easy going. So we're going to go hard. Maybe, just maybe that's exactly what's happening. But you keep in the back of your head that, again, the moment that they want to go after it, it might just be a iron fist first and then ask for regret afterwards. That might definitely be something which is going to happen, so be careful of that. All right, then we're going to head over into a little rally over on Twitter. I have about 7 pieces that I think are interesting. And actually, fun fact, I believe that Sam Bankman-Fried went on a show today, right? I believe over on, this is interesting. We'll talk about that later. I think over on Mario Narwhal, I'm not sure what exactly his name is. Or maybe it's actually right now. There's 40,000 people listening right now. Okay, let's, I guess, listen in on this one. There's 40,000 people. Wait a minute. Okay.
So that is a mess.
Sam, can I ask you a question? And like, I don't want to interrogate you and ask you specific questions, but try to understand 29-year-old dealing with the collapse of an empire, which affected probably in excess of 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40 million people and a whole industry around it.
I wish we had that many
knocking
customers.
Off billions.
But
okay, but I mean, your customers, etc. But okay, millions of customers. Trying to understand, as a 29-year-old, who was around you? Who were the 5 people that you were calling and speaking to? And I'm trying to get a feel for the type of discussions that were happening as this whole thing started to collapse. Trying to get a feel for what were the top 5 numbers that you were calling, and I'm trying to get a feel for what they were telling you to do.
So it's a good question, and there was a group of employees working around me to try to do what we could. I was calling a number of prospective funders to investigate potential opportunities to.
But who were your confidants? Who were the people that were guiding you? Like, I know when something happens to me, yep. I've got 5 people in the office who are really close to me, and I know who they are, and they're partners, and they know that they're yep. brothers for life. Who were you phoning? Were you phoning Caroline? Were you speaking to Gary?
And Gary being a childhood friend and a co-founder as well,
Yeah.
Sam, I'd love to know more about his involvement.
So, I mean, I was calling basically, calling and or speaking to in person, primarily other core employees of the company, other employees who had, relevant stakes in it, who had, relevant thoughts, but it was the core employees were the bulk of who I was, counseling with. Then I did call, some external advisors, a few key investors. I called a few.
What about Caroline?
Partners.
What about Caroline? Were you speaking to Caroline during this whole thing? I mean, were you guys aligning on exactly how much money Alameda had and what the value of the positions was? Because ultimately, she was a CEO. I mean, how many times where was she on the list? In terms of frequency, was she number 1? Was she number 3? Was she number 5?
She was not physically in the same place as me when this is happening, so there were a fair number of phone calls, to do exactly what you said. Like, as soon as this happened, one of the first things that we said was we need to know exactly what the deal is with not just Alameda's balances and positions on FTX, but everywhere. We want to know exactly what funds there are. We want to know, whether a margin call will be able to be hit. We want to know how long it would take to deliver those. And so there were certainly a lot of conversations, with her around that. Although she wasn't physically in the Bahamas when this is happening, and so I was, speaking more frequently in some sense to the employees who were there.
What about Dan Friedberg?
I don't want to, I think, go into where specific employees' heads were at, just because I think that's for them to talk about it if they want to.
But was he one of the top 5, or was he one of the top 5 people that you would? I mean, he was a big advisor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a big employee of the company, a big part of our legal team. I think that everyone sort of in those positions were people I was trying to consult with, and I don't want to sort of go into details of where they were at unless they kind of give me permission to do so. But you can look through who were, the core developers, the core people on the legal side, the core people on the ventures M&A side, and on customer support, VIP support. Like, all of those people were sort of huddling around to some extent, and trying to figure out like what the right things to do were. But at the same time, I was not as communicative to some of those as I wished that I had been. I was, including some people on that list. And I think in retrospect, that was a failing of mine as well. I was very nervous to say something company-wide that, both because I wanted to make sure I didn't say something that I didn't believe and I wasn't sure what was happening. Like, I was trying to figure it out in real time, but also because at some point, everything that I said started leaking out pretty quickly. And so it sort of broke down the ability to have that much of a distinction between company-wide communications and public communications. But I think in retrospect, I wish that I'd just been, saying what I knew when I knew it pretty transparently, and accepted the fact that I was going to guess wrong sometimes, and the fact that a lot of it was going to get out publicly, because I think I owed it to the employees who had been fighting with us for years to tell them what I knew when I knew it, even if I wasn't confident in it.
This is live, by the way. For anybody wondering,
I'll let you continue with the question.
This is them live right now.
$10 billion in funds. We really need to get back to this point.
40,000 people watching this.
Without FTX customer knowledge
people.
to Alameda from FTX.
That's why there's nobody in the
Allison
stream.
herself said this in a statement, right? So is it true, or that you or the team had management of the controlling owner, right there, move these funds regardless of method from FTX to Alameda?
So I do think that there was, Alameda ended up with a substantial margin position open on the exchange. I think that, just the over collateralized margin position was a fair bit of it. I think that the avenue that Rand talked about with the historical wire transfers was part of it as well. I think, you add those up, and I think you probably get to most of it. Although again, I don't have all the data right now, so that's sort of piecing it together. And a lot of these
where did the funds come from that Alameda was able to margin?
Sorry, that when we say that they're able to margin.
Yes, because that margin is a loan, effectively, correct?
Yep.
Alameda. Where did the
Yep.
funds come from for that loan?
They were, and the collateral came from assets that Alameda owned, and the liabilities were, a short margin position open on FTX, coming from the assets that FTX had.
And how did you know this much about this move, even though you said you didn't know there was that much on the sheets?
Oh, a lot of these are things that I have pieced together after the fact that I did not know at the time, or was not fully aware of at the time. This is sort of a hodgepodge of things that I knew, things that I didn't know, but have since found out, and things that I'm guessing at, given what I've been able to find out, but I'm not entirely confident in.
Were FTX consumers made aware of this?
But
move?
Sam.
Yep.
Just before, I want to go on that specific point. Alameda, is it possible that Alameda was withdrawing real dollars from FTX and instead putting FTT as collateral? So almost taking FTT, putting it as collateral, and then withdrawing real dollars in exchange as against that FTT collateral?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of clients were doing that. I do believe Alameda was doing that as well, and was doing that for a substantial size.
Yeah, I mean, the size that I saw was more than they were supposed to have as unlocked tokens. Do you think it's possible that maybe they were leveraging more tokens than they had unlocked?
I don't believe it's more than were unlocked, because all FTG tokens are unlocked at this point. They're separately. So I think that what CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap sort of denoted as circulating tokens, I believe that was effectively not counting FTT tokens held on FTX. I think that's roughly how it was implemented, that it was because it's just done by looking at a set of blockchain addresses, and we're basically taking all tokens except for those on some specific subset of blockchain addresses. And I think what that was doing was just excluding at least some, if not all, of FTX's wallets from that calculation, and probably had been for a little while. So I think that the circulating supply calculations on CoinMarket and CoinGecko were, I mean, they're displaying a particular thing. I don't think that thing was necessarily what was the most intuitive thing, but all FTT had been unlocked for a little while.
Thanks, man.
And you stated in your text, leaked on Vox, that you knew deposits from FTX consumers were essentially lent out to Alameda, and that Alameda then invested with these funds, correct?
Something roughly like that.
Okay, and so you then would have had to been aware of that happening. In that report now by Reuters that we referred to back, it also stated up to $2 billion of those funds are now missing. When Reuters asked you about this, no clarity was given. In fact, you responded with 3 question marks. So I'm asking you in front of our audience here, the live crypto audience here, where did that $2 billion go?
I'm so confused. So first of all, I didn't say knew as of when that was happening. It's not clear to me what you were saying there in terms of when I knew that. But
I'm not sure that I asked you a question, Sam. Can we just stick on that? I'm trying to keep this to where we can keep it very cordial and really inform the audience. So, in that report, it said $2 billion of those funds are now missing, right? From the 10 billion, they were released up to 2 billion, at least 1 to 2 billion gone from the balance sheet, disappeared. No one knows where they're at. Where did that $2 billion go?
I have no idea what that's referring to.
Okay. So you had no oversight of that much money being able to just disappear from one of your firms?
Wait, I'm not sure. Sorry. I'm not sure I'm even agreeing that is what happened. I'm confused by that statement.
There's a report from Reuters that says that up to $2 billion of the $10 billion that was moved, that you just said you knew was moved.
Which $10 billion that was moved?
The $10 billion that was moved to FTX without customer knowledge from Alameda to FTX. The 10 billion that we were just talking about, that you just said that you knew we were talking about. I don't understand the confusion.
I'm not sure about a 10 billion number. Sorry, if you could point me to this article, I think it would help.
Yes, anyone feel
legitimately
free to
unsure
pin
what
that
this
Reuters
is
article to the top of the
referring
space.
to.
So, all right. So we'll move past that for right now, and I'll go back to that in a second. In October 2021, you conducted a raise for FTX, correct?
I mean, there are raises over the course of 2021. Yeah.
Okay, but you did a specific raise with Sequoia and some others. 69 investors to be precise, including Sequoia, which called it a meme round. How much was that raised for?
I don't remember how much that round was. Was that the 400 million round, roughly?
Yeah, $420 at $420.69 million.
Right.
Raised from 69 investors, which is quite called a meme one. What were those funds used for?
Acquisitions.
Did you take any of that money?
Who is you here? Is you
SBF, Sam, the person I'm talking to. Did you take any of that money?
To my knowledge, that was used for acquisitions for FTX.
According to FTX financial records, internal records reviewed by the Wall Street Journal, actually 3/4 of that raise, $300 million, went directly to you from you selling some of your stake in the company. Where did that $300 million go?
Oh, sorry. The particular $300 million from the resale, that I'm not sure that's that same round that you're talking about. I think that it may have been that one. My memories it was a different one, but you might be right. But either way, that was or slightly before that, I had bought Binance out of their stake in FTX for a few $billion. And then had resold a small portion of that secondary to investors. So it went to recouping the costs from buying Binance out.
Okay,
Makes
and you
sense
said
if
you
it's true.
didn't
Makes
conduct
sense.
any risk management at FTX and Alameda in all essence. When you and you said this in the New York Times Deal Book Summit yesterday, correct?
I may said I did I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but I did way less than I should have.
You said essentially there was none. When you pitched your firms to accredited U.S. investors, did you tell them there was no risk management in place?
So there was some risk management in place. I myself did very little there. I wish that I had done way more, and I myself did very little in terms of appointing anyone to do it. Now, there was a lot of risk management that was in place in terms of automated, risk management systems, but there was not, in retrospect, good oversight of this. That was a big mistake. I don't believe that I made any material misstatements to prospective investors, although obviously I can't, I don't have recollection of everything that I said. Everything that I said, I
What
thought
did
to be
you
true.
What did you present to them as the risk management profile of FTX when you pitched to them?
I don't remember.
Was that part of it?
I don't remember detailed conversations about it. I'm not sure there weren't. There were a lot of conversations that happened. I'm not sure there weren't, but I don't particularly remember many.
So there weren't a lot of due diligence processes that took place?
And I think that there were due diligence on some things. I think there's a lot of due diligence done on my sense.
Okay, I think we lost Sam.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm back.
You're back. You dropped out 5 seconds. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, continue,
My
Sam.
sense is, and I don't want to put words in other people's mouths, but my sense is roughly that when people were doing their diligence here, that prospective investors
Bitboy's
were
not on this
thinking
call
of
now.
it primarily from the perspective here. They were looking at the upside here. They were looking at, what could the business become? How could it grow? That's what you generally do as a venture investor. And if you are, primarily concerned about, the downside of venture investment, that probably means it's an investment that you don't want to make and aren't going to bother investigating in the first place.
So, so the point that you're making is that they didn't need to look into the risk management profile?
I'm not necessarily saying they didn't need. I mean, I don't want to make a statement about what they needed to or didn't need to do, but I think from their perspective, that they saw themselves as, I would guess, as primarily looking into what is the upside of this business, and
Okay. And did I lose you there?
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
it stops.
but at the end of the day, like,
Okay.
obviously I don't want to talk for them. Like, they should talk for themselves.
Okay. And did you ever update your investors on the status of your risk management profile?
I don't remember having like a specific, update specifically related to that. I don't remember everything that's been said, but but I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at there, or if you're asking, like, did I have a special session where, called like update of risk management? Like, no.
Did you have any regular meetings with your investors?
Yeah, we would have a call every few months to talk about the business.
Okay, and the ways that you were
months?
controlling customer
Whoa.
assets or anything like that just didn't come up, is what you're saying?
I don't think it particularly did.
Yes, this is live now
Okay,
over on
so
Twitter.
that
There's 40,000 people watching right
now.
40,000.
Yesterday in the New York Times Dealbook Summit, you made an interesting statement. So it kind of stuck out to me. You said you, quote, marked the assets Alameda used as collateral. How then were you not aware of the size of Alameda's FTT collateral then? And wouldn't this mean that you had access to Alameda's bookkeeping?
Sorry, you said that at the Dealbook Summit.
You said that when you were asked about the marking of the assets and whether they were marked properly. Do you remember that question from Sorkin?
Vaguely, yeah.
Okay, and you responded saying that with Alameda Research, you marked those assets, and that would mean that you were the one who had determined the price of them on the book, correct?
We had algorithms which determined the price of those on the book.
Okay, so then what did you mean by you had marked the assets at Alameda?
I think I was. So I don't remember the exact phrase that I said. It may have been me just saying, like, we as in like FTX, the product, were marking all assets to mark prices. But I'm sorry, I actually don't remember exactly what I had said then.
Okay. But I said to you that you had marked the assets. That is something that you said directly in response to his question as to whether you thought that they were marked properly, and you felt that you might not have marked them properly while you were marking them at Alameda, up against everything else. But in doing so, that would mean that, like, that is access to the books, is it not?
Sorry. So this is, to be clear, marking the assets of Alameda on FTX, right? Looking at the collateral that Alameda held.
No, this is just marking Alameda's assets. You didn't say anything about FTX specifically assets, or Alameda's assets on FTX. You were specifically mentioning how much was marked as far as the collateral of Alameda.
Yeah, but I think that was implicitly the collateral that it had on FTX, is my memory of what that was referring to. But I mean, either way, sorry, I can talk about what I actually think here. Which is that in general, like, FTX was marking assets to what their mark prices were, and that when I was thinking about the risk profile of large positions on FTX, and specifically of Alameda's position, which I was also surprised by the size of in retrospect, but in addition to that when I was thinking about not from a formal marking perspective, but from a just in my mind, how do I think about this? Is this something I feel nervous about? Is this something that I need to be investigating more perspective? That I was substantially underestimating what crash risk would look like. And I was thinking about, a 50% haircut as a substantial, very large haircut, rather than as, possibly even an underestimate of what would be necessary for a short period crash in some circumstances. So, I think it was, I certainly think that I made some big mistakes there in how I was thinking about it.
Okay.
Sam, sorry, it's running again.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to. There were a couple of accusations about the way that you ran the exchange, and I really want to try and get to the bottom of it. One of the accusations was someone that went on to BitBoy show. I'm not sure if you heard the show, but he mentioned that FTX was creating more tokens than there were in circulation, or more tokens than they were given for their market making role, almost creating synthetic tokens and trading in these synthetic tokens that they never really had. And yet, he had some really convincing evidence. He showed a little bit of like on-chain data in terms of, the number of tokens that they sent to FTX versus the number of tokens in FTX and the tokens that were returned. And his accusation was that FTX was trading synthetic or fake tokens to manipulate price. Do you think that could have happened?
Sorry. So I think that I frankly don't know actually exactly what you're referring to there. I'm sorry, did not hear that particular one. I'd love to look into that more if you could like send me a link to that and get back to you on that. But an FTX.
But let me just explain it to you again. Let me just explain it to you. Like for example, when a token gets listed on an exchange, sometimes the token would be required to give the exchange to lodge certain tokens with the exchange in their role as a market maker. And this specific project claimed that you were selling more tokens than you had as a market maker. And when the time came for FTX to return the tokens to the project, there weren't enough tokens. And I'm just trying to understand, like, do you think that it could be possible that maybe you guys created, call it fake synthetic tokens, fake tokens, that kind?
So I think you're probably talking about Alameda there, not FTX, and I don't know the details of that. I'm sorry, I wasn't running Alameda, and but I can try and look into that.
That's
Simon, I know you had a question as well.
Okay.
Of course not. But it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to look into it.
No, maybe
It's kind of sketch.
it'd be good to look at some of like the key events because obviously we've gone quite deep here into like the specifics around. I think maybe some of the things leading up to what got here, like starting at the Luna situation, a lot of people don't have real clarity on people's involvements in that. So one of the, like, Sam, it would be great to hear your perspective on, like, a lot of people believe that there was some efforts from people really exposed to Luna, to try and save Luna or and there was some renegs of certain agreements. My understanding was like Celsius, Galaxy, Almeida. Could you share with us like any of the things that were happening between those that were significantly affected? Because obviously this is the start of the story.
So I actually know
this is live, guys. It is live right now.
The Luna side of this. I don't to my knowledge, neither
40,000 people watching right
FTX
now live.
Nor Alameda were particularly involved in Luna. Obviously the market crash was quite relevant for them in the industry as a whole. But I don't think that there's that much specific, if any, specific Luna involvement. I think that there were I guess I think that like there were a lot of, there are obviously a lot of blowouts in like borrow lending desks around then that came from sort of secondary exposure to Luna, flowing through Three Arrows and other places. But I don't know much outside of that.
Do you know like anyone that made significant money from the Luna collapse? Was there a way of like shorting the stable coin on using any of the products on FTX?
I think there are probably a lot of good arbitrages to do. Like, I do think that is likely the case. And I think that, things were just like not trading really exactly in line for most of that period. So, I think they're really good trades to do then.
Did you have any like meetings yourself or anyone in the team about, like with like Alex Majinski, people from Celsius, Novogratz, or any of these people that were deeply affected by it? Was there any kind of meetings that about where people were trying to figure out what to do? Because there's like rumors that when Celsius decided to try and get out for some of their clients, that was like a renege of some kind of agreement, and that upset a lot of people. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. I mean, obviously, I had some meetings with like borrow lending firms around that time, around the troubles they were facing. But I don't unfortunately know anything about, things specific to really like the Luna side.
So I've got Simon. I've just sent you through a username. Chairman, I'll let you ask your question, man. Thanks for patiently waiting. Simon, I've sent you a username. Do you mind? Because my spaces is glitching. Can you send them an invite up? I've just sent you the username. So to send an invite up, you got to click on the icon at the bottom, guests. Click on speakers and click on invite speakers and add the username. But Chairman, I'll let you ask your question, man.
Yeah, Sam. Would you be willing to go on Up Only, hosted by Kobe and Ledger Status?
Potentially. I suspect that I have been messaged about that. I'm sorry. I'm still digging through my my backlog of messages. But I'll try and put that on schedule.
Don't come on. You gotta go on it. Come on.
I've got another question for you as well, Sam. The tweet. So there was, while Simon invites a guest to ask you a couple of questions, and I know you have to go over in about 5 to 10 minutes. There was a tweet on 11th of October. At some point, I might have more to say about particular sparring partner, so to speak. But you know glass houses. So for now, all I'll say is, well played. You won. Most will assume this refers to CZ, and would love you to elaborate on this. It's been a while since the tweet.
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, mostly I screwed up, and like I feel incredibly bad about that, and it hurt a lot of people. And whether or not it matters, I'm going to do what I can to try and make it right. And I don't want to try and deflect responsibility from that. Obviously there are other things that also contributed to what happened, and there was a pretty sustained PR assault, which I underestimated, and underestimated the impact of, and underestimated the execution of, and I think that was quite impactful, and was what sort of lit the match here. But that doesn't change the fact that I wasn't on top of my shit.
Hey, Mario, since he's leaving in 5 or 10 minutes, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man. While we bring up the guest. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Hey, Sam, did you or any of your business entities or family members ever make any donations to political parties or politicians on the Bahamas?
I'm not sure, not to my knowledge.
You can't just say that answer that with yes or no?
I don't know of cases where we did. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily know if like someone had at some point made some donation on behalf of some entity. But like I don't know of that having happened.
Okay. Have you and your lawyers been in touch with the U.S. Department of Justice about your case?
I can't talk about, any specific communications or lack thereof with specific, regulatory agencies. But obviously we'd be, looking to engage constructively if and when that were to happen.
The reason why I'm asking is in several interviews you pointed out that FTX US has enough funds to pay US customers.
Yes.
Is that a strategy to ensure that the U.S. Department of Justice doesn't charge you with a crime because the DOJ doesn't have jurisdiction over foreign FTX customers?
I mean, it's a true fact. It's like FTX US was in fact a segregated business, and it didn't have any of the properties that led to the issues on FTX International. And so, to my knowledge, it is solvent, and that doesn't take away what happened on the international platform. But I don't know, at least it's something.
Have you transferred funds to FTX US before the bankruptcy to enable this defense strategy?
No, FTX US was, to my knowledge, always solvent.
In some of the recent interviews, you used the phrase, "I don't have the details," 116 times. Why is it that you know so little about your own companies or even about the real estate deals that you facilitated for your parents?
So, many of these things were things where I was not the one who was primarily doing them. And then many of these things are things where there exists data that would make it entirely possible to answer these questions. But unfortunately, I don't have access to that data right now. And you could ask the Chapter 11 team to try and get access to such data that might help answer some of these questions. But I don't have that data about my the companies that I started right now.
Okay.
I see. Kim, if we can give CoffeeZilla the mic after this question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim. Last question, CoffeeZilla. The mic is yours.
Two more things really quick. So you keep saying that you want to help your customers getting their money back. What are the concrete steps that you are taking?
So, I mean, look, a lot of this isn't in my control right now, and a lot of this is going to be up to the global administrators and regulators who are involved. But I'm happy to be of assistance to any of them any way that I can. And in any way that they want me to be, but I would be excited to be, to the extent that I could help find help put together anyways, or be a part of that to help make make customers more whole by probably by there being more funds for them to have access to.
CoffeeZilla, the mic is yours, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I just wanted to quickly ask, so there's this big question about this $8 billion that went into some kind of a stub account. If I just want to get some clarification on this, from my understanding, what you're basically claiming is that back when FTX didn't have banking, you'd use Silvergate to have people to wire money to Alameda Research and then credit them on the FTX side, but you didn't actually account for that money going back to them. So essentially you had like $8 billion coming to FTX you didn't have on the books, technically. I mean, can you explain more how that worked? Because it seems like such a key part of this whole thing. And so far we've gotten like very vague things about stub accounts. Just try to be as specific as you can on how that actually happened.
So, and again, some of these are things I'm trying to piece together that I don't have the full answer to, but I think that part of it was, I believe that there was correct FTX accounting in terms of the audited financials, but that at least I can say that when you sort of pulled up on a dashboard what the accounts look like, it would not have it wouldn't have displayed those transfers, and it wouldn't have displayed the balances related to those, which meant that it was that the sort of what you would naively see as the relevant it's the relevant sort of position size was quite a bit smaller than what the full position size was.
Specifically, you're talking about the funds that went into Alameda that was credited to on the customer side on FTX.
Yeah,
you're saying that basically when you looked at your dashboard, Alameda was using those funds to trade perhaps, but that ultimately you couldn't see that on the Alameda side because there was some kind of an accounting problem where there was a mix up with where it was credited. Is that the story?
Yeah, it's something roughly like that, or at the very least that the common displays of it did not include that piece of the accounting.
A real quick second follow-up. So I've talked to a few Alameda insiders, and I've kind of run them by your story of things. I think you probably are aware. I'm pretty skeptical. And one of them, when I told them could it be that Sam wouldn't know about this? Somebody who worked with you, and they actually they laughed and they said, "There's no way he's claiming to be stupid now when he was like this genius wonder kid." And so my sense of things is, how do you explain this? How do you explain the fact that some of the people who worked with you for years,
all of a sudden
your employees have come out and said, there's no way he didn't know about these back doors. There's no way he didn't know what Caroline was doing when you guys were very close. The offices were right next to each other. I mean, how do you expect us to believe this story you're spinning?
I mean, I don't know what to say. Like I had a lot going on, um, and I was spread thin. I was a bit less grounded than I had been before, and I lost track of a lot of important things. And I mean, I think that those are
hang
bad
on one
things.
second. I think spread thin is one thing, right? Like I think things can get out of hand, but we're talking about a fundamental understanding of whether Alameda was commingling funds with FTX. I mean, I saw your Stephanopoulos and Sorkin interview, and you're pretty categorical that you had no idea that you were mingling funds. So that's what I'm asking about. Not like, did you know exactly what was happening on November 7th or 8th? I mean, I can understand sort of things getting out of control, but we're talking about the most fundamental grasp on how your business worked. You're telling us you had no idea.
Fair point.
I was not aware of a lot of what was going on. I was vaguely aware that some of these systems existed. I had no details of them, and I was not spending much time.
I must say, it's also a fair point from him.
And
Maybe the
on
guy is really just focused on
looking
regulation. The rest
at
is like, I don't
position
care,
risk
because he's already
management.
so
It was a
rich.
big mistake.
He's like,
I mean, you're
Right,
right.
Sam. I've just got guys. I've just got a DM. Sam has to leave. So guys, Sam
Wait,
has
can
to
I,
leave.
Mark? Can I ask
Guys,
a question?
Fuck.
all right, guys. I just got to end it, guys. So because Sam has been DMing me nonstop about having to leave, and I don't want to just drop out for the last 10 minutes, saying I have to leave. So Sam, the last question I wanna end it with is there's two camps right now. One camp is looking at this and saying, Sam. All right. So guys. So on one side, the audience, I'm looking at the comments, is like, hey, Sam is at least speaking despite lawyers telling him not to, and looking at this in a very positive light. On the other side, people are saying your answers are very calculated, you're dodging any tricky questions, and this is all part of a plan to paint yourself in a better light. And I do have to admit, there are some answers where they're very, very calculated, and you try to dodge them in one way or another. So to conclude it from my end, what's next? What's next for you in the next few weeks? What can we expect? And what can FTX customers expect? Because you did say that FTX US, they should be made whole. FTX International, I think 30 cents on the dollar. What can the people that were hurt by this, there's some comments about people, kind of hurts me to say this, but, talking about ending their life. And we've had some of these people on stage. What can they expect over the next few weeks and months? And that question is for Sam, just for all other panelists, please. Go ahead, Sam.
I mean, look, I'm incredibly sorry about what happened, and I know that doesn't change anything. I'm gonna do what I can, even if that's not much. But at the end of the day, hopefully, hopefully there will be pathways that will be able to get more funds back for users. Hopefully there will be pathways that open up withdrawals where they can be, and that maximize the value ultimately that users can get. But in the end, that's a lot of that's not going to be up to me. I'm just going to try and be helpful where I can there. But I'm sorry.
Sam, you keep saying you can do what you can. What you're going to do as much as you can. You said it when the liquidator, when you went into chapter 11. I'm trying to understand in your head what you think you can do in your current position, given the fact that the liquidators on both sides, well, the liquidators on the US side have said that you're no longer involved and that you no longer speak on behalf of the company. And I genuinely believe that you really want to help. I'm just trying to understand in your head when you talk about doing whatever you can and trying to do it. What do you think is in your hands?
You should just say, "Okay, this is my final question." I'll answer.
Sorry, I'm very late for next call, so I do have to hop off now. But all I can do is I can be helpful to all the teams who want me to globally, and I'm going to continue to do that if and when I'm asked, and look for other ways over time that I can hopefully help contribute. But yeah, there's a limit to how much different groups are going to want me to, and I understand that.
Mario, can we keep the space open after Sam drops?
Yeah, we will. So after just for everyone, hold on.
Right.
Hold on. Just want to say, because I know Sam, you're just about to jump off. He just jumped off. So we do have insiders with important. We do have insiders with bombshell news. They've been investigating the matter for months. I think about 9 months, and they have a lot of findings. And they haven't mentioned earlier. They're coming on stage now. We're about to bring them up. So Romy will send you their details if you can invite them up. They will be sharing details that nobody knows yet. So that's something I've been talking to them for a long time, and they finally agreed to come on stage and share it. So they're about to come on stage. But yeah, Alex, you were saying?
I mean, I just wanted to say, like, it was a bit frustrating, to be honest, because I think Sam was running circles, frankly, around a lot of people on stage, and we should have been delving deeper. Like,
yeah, this is a really dumb interview from the perspective
I think everyone in the crowd needs to be aware of this, not just for this space, but for future media appearances. The first thing he's doing is he's basically taking advantage of all these complicated side narratives that don't matter. The only thing that matters was that he basically went and he misappropriated customer funds and basically took those funds and lent it to a hedge fund that he fully owned and then used FTT to back it up. And anytime he tries to get away from that, it's really important in these interviews that people dive deep, and we need people with domain knowledge on how exchanges work and how, frankly, finance works to keep digging on that, because we let him slither out of that way too much.
And any particular points, Alex, if you want to comment on particular points that were mentioned.
I highly agree with that, Alex. The way it was managed when
Alex,
trying to go into deeper questions.
Hold on, guys.
But yes, go on.
Guys, Alex, do you want to continue just any specific points? And I'll get you to speak, Chairman, right after, while we bring up the two special guests. Any specific points you want to mention for anyone listening? Specific lies.
After this, we'll go on with the news. Just
that you want to address.
On the last piece.
Yeah, so I mean, I pinned this tweet by Jesse, who obviously runs Kraken, and I think would have been a great person to keep drilling on that. But basically, when he actually started talking about how the margin trading system works at FTX, that just wasn't correct. He was basically saying that anyone could come in. They could. I'm going to read Jesse's point because it's, I think, really valid, and it was literally.
Yeah, please do.
So, for everyone, please pin the top tweet and like and retweet that to get more visibility. But basically, he said that, okay, how the exchange worked was that it was a net account equity model. So people could borrow against client funds, right? And then he would print FTT, which is a vapor token, against it, okay? And then he said, if the quote Sam said was, if you add it all up and you counted the negative balances as 100% recoverable, then we were fully solvent. That makes no sense. You can't just go borrow like 10,000 worth of Bitcoin and then print FTT against that to collateralize it and then say that you're fully solvent. That is fraud. And like, that was like the problem that like he keeps slithering away from, in my opinion. And like, frankly, that's the only thing that matters. Like, yes, all these side things that he's doing with regulators or all these other aspects are problematic, but that is where the fraud lies.
Well, I mean, I think
Alex is absolutely right. I just want to say real quick, I don't know who said like, oh, I believe you have like good intentions here. SBF has only one intention, which is to save himself from jail. Let's all keep an eye on that, because if you want to read into his statements, everything is said with the idea that he's trying to paint a narrative of himself, that he made an embarrassing mistake, that although he's this genius who went to these top tier Ivy League schools, worked on Jane Street, wooed everybody from BlackRock to Sequoia, all of a sudden he's an idiot the second he's committed fraud, right? We're supposed to believe he didn't know what was going on the company he started and ran for years. We're supposed to believe he didn't know what was going on right across the street. I mean, how stupid do we have to believe a narrative like that? It's completely insane. But people are like kissing his ass saying, oh, I believe you're doing the right thing. No, he's done enough. He's helped enough. He needs to take a sideline. He needs to go to jail, and people need to get whatever pennies they're going to get back from this whole thing. He's lied from the very beginning. I'm like shocked by the credulity people have in relation to this guy. They just like suck up whatever he's saying. Nearly everything out of this guy's mouth is a lie, except where it lines up with him not going to jail, and then he might tell the truth. But every single thing he says is with the aim of not going to jail, and everyone needs to remember that.
I don't know if you were there in the beginning.
I would like to add something to that, if I may. I would like to add that I'm disappointed how this whole thing was set up, because my first question and how throwing everyone else under the bus.
Sorry, Just so go back. You dropped out for about 4 or 5 seconds. Can you go back 4 or 5 seconds? What you're saying?
Yeah, so I'm disappointed how this whole thing was running, because my first question went right to the meat of it, where he is basically saying he had no
That's true.
idea what happened with
That's very
customer funds, and he's throwing Caroline under the bus and his partners under the bus. And I was muted, moved down, and removed as a speaker. And there was such a crucial question. And then, Mario, I sent you a couple of important questions that you said you would ask, and you never did. And then you said, when you are done with your questions, we get to ask him questions. But at the end, you said there's only 5 to 10 minutes left. It's really not nice how this whole thing was managed, because there were so many important questions that were left unanswered. And I'm really disappointed.
Bro, I do, Kim. I've got, you know how many people telling me on the panel, I've got more important questions that are unanswered. I don't have 5 hours to ask all the questions. I think we did a better job. If you go back to New York Times, if you go back to Good Morning America, compare these questions to the questions they asked and the fluff pieces they had. So we tried our best, considering the amount of speakers I wanted to ask questions. I have 50 questions. I asked 5 of them, considering there's only so many I can ask. So Chet does a lot of interrogations. Yeah. So he was trying to pin him on a few things as well. Ran had great questions and brought questions from BitBoy as well. So I think, all of us have more questions. I have more questions I'm annoyed I couldn't ask as well. So it's something that, it's a point that we can all make.
But guys, I think to Coffee's point, we got him to admit that the money was double accounted for in Alameda and on FTX. He literally admitted it when I asked him the question. I said to him, is it possible that people were depositing money into Alameda, no money was flowing between FTX and Alameda, and people were trading as if they had money, and therefore you were double accounting on the money? And he pretty much said, yeah, that could have happened. That is probably what happened. I mean, beyond that point, he admitted that Alameda was taking money and they were crediting people on FTX. And then Alameda was still using the money. So they pretty much were creating fake money on FTX. He admitted it. Go back. I've got this thing on YouTube. Yeah, I'm going to cut out that.
Rand kept taking it back to that key point. And we did get to the key point, which is that the spot and futures were commingled. And the bit that Jesse was trying to, that we found out afterwards, is that these margin positions are you simply lending your Bitcoin to somebody, and somebody, these are matched up on an order book peer to peer. So, we got the key thing out, which is that it was all commingled. It was a mess. And there was no,
There's Spot, and he agreed. He said that Spot. I made him agree to 2 things. One is that Alameda and FTX were commingled, and not only that they were duplicating funds. So you would put your money into Alameda, and you would get $1 would be deposited into Alameda, and that dollar would reflect as a $1 balance on your account. But the money wouldn't flow from Alameda into FTX, which means that every time money came in, you were basically funding Sam Bankman-Fried's hedge fund while he was crediting you with fake money on the exchange. He admitted to that. The second thing that he admitted was that there was no separation between spot clients and futures clients, which means that effectively there was commingling of funds, and that is a fraud. That's a fraud in any country. That's a fraud in Bahamas. It's a fraud in the USA. It's a fraud anywhere in the world. That's the second thing that's the second thing that he admitted. So I think we pretty much got out of him 80% of what went wrong here.
All right, exiting that, because I think we also have the story as straight as it's going to get, and otherwise I can sit there for another hour or 2, but honestly, we're not going to learn that much anymore from here on forward. So I think that was very informative. I think it was actually really good to get Sam Bankman-Fried to answer a couple of different things. At the end of the day, though, it's not really changing that much. I mean, take a look, for example, at freaking Twitter. Yeah, I have to change my screens up a little bit again. To make sure all is in the good place. But yeah, to just start it out, man, take a look at this, for example, for just a second. Bill Ackman. You guys all know him. If you don't know Bill Ackman, go back to school maybe, just for a second. Man, the guy, all right, very, very well-known individual, all of a sudden is going over to Twitter to say, call me crazy, but I think Sam Bankman-Fried is telling the truth. And he says, I deeply appreciate that. I messed up. I'm going to do everything I can to make it right, even though I knew it might never be enough. You know my problem with the whole situation, guys? My biggest problem with the whole situation is that I honestly believe some parts from the perspective that, well, it can't be so that you're so freaking rich that you don't really care about any other part except for potentially like, only regulatory, don't bother me with the rest. But the caveat to that is, I can't believe that this guy is this smart and doesn't seem to realize a multi-billion-dollar gap. You have to be apeshit stupid to have nobody in the entire system not realize that there's a multi-billion-dollar gap, nobody bringing it up to their manager and then to the CEO, nobody ever. That is straight up dumb, straight up stupid, retarded. The fact they had no accounting department, the only explanation I could have is that that was done deliberately. Or again, these guys are just kids that are freaking stupid to the brain. But that makes me think again that they are just manipulators anyway. Because if they're kids that cannot handle their business properly for a multi-billion-dollar business, and they're making jokes about these investment rounds, which is fine. Elon Musk does that too, to some degree. But then you can't expect them to handle money well from the get-go. And so when they make a mistake like this, you can't just say like, too bad. No, it's like, well, you made a mistake. You're a kid. You shouldn't have done that. Well, go sit in jail for a little bit because this is too much of a mistake though, right? So learn from it. And next time, don't start a venture again being incapable. When they asked him questions like, for example, hey, so who exactly are your top guys in terms of advisors? He's like, well, I don't know. It's a really good question to ask. Who exactly is there that you can ask questions to? Because if you don't know how to do business well, it's kind of what he's saying. Well, he's like, I don't know. I don't have those insights. Who exactly did know? He's saying, well, Caroline, I didn't run Alameda. But so he's basically saying, well, they should go to jail then and he shouldn't? Or is that not what he's saying? Is he saying, well, there's just a gap. Nobody should go to jail because he made a mistake. But it's a multi-billion-dollar mistake and people lost billions of dollars then and they're hurt? I mean, I accidentally made a Ponzi scheme. Well, that's a big mistake to make. You deserve jail for that mistake. So where exactly does that line lie? He is a proper scholar. It's not as if he's just a kid that all of a sudden fell into a lot of money and fell into this company and didn't know anything. No, this guy is, again, still a rich kid from the get-go, still a very, very highly educated kid from the get-go. So he did get a couple of advantages, but he still had to know stuff to get to where he is. And that's the opposite side, he doesn't know shit, he didn't know shit, and everything was just handed to him, and everything he's telling is the truth. He just doesn't know shit because he was just a peon. He's just a puppet in this whole scheme that was masterminded by his parents and whatnot. But if that's the case, then asking him questions means nothing because he literally might not know anything, just as dumbass from the get-go, and he's still a dumbass. Could be also. That's one thing you guys should keep in the back of your head. Maybe the guy literally has zero brains and has never had them, and he's just being manipulated by some other guys, all for political purposes and whatnot. Could be. There's a small chance right there, but it could be. But I'm honestly thinking the guy's just coming for money. He got a couple of really good chances. He took them. Didn't know how to manage everything, and all of a sudden thought, you know what? We can try something here. It's very risky, but we can actually make $30 billion if it works. It didn't. It didn't work out. And now he's like, shit. But his parents are advising him to just act dumb. Because, well, in that case, you can act as if you were just a kid. You didn't have an accounting department, so you didn't actually know. It's just an honest mistake, a business mistake, not a fraudulent intent. And so no jail time, just, hey, don't do that again. And a little tick on your head. Because, again, things get so strange when we look at Kevin O'Leary and whatnot, right? I think I have them open. Let's just check it out. So, for example, here, let's take a look. This is so strange. Like, I lost millions as an investor in FTX and got sandblasted as a paid spokesperson for the firm. But after listening to that interview, I am in the Bill Ackman camp about the kid. What? How? What? How? How can you be on his team? How can you be like, well, but this guy seems to really be a good guy to invest my money in? If any person tells me right now that this guy deserves more money, I think that guy is either lying to you straight away, which is a 99% probability, or is also ridiculously dumb in the brain. Deserves a little brain scan maybe for some sort of, morph in his brain or something like that. Because in either one of these scenarios, this is my thoughts, either he's a fraudster, point blank, or he's a freaking dumbass, 7 IQ. And the MIT diploma was also just bought, maybe, whatever. Either of the two. With point number one, he's a fraudster. You don't want to invest in that guy. Point number two, he's a dumbass. You don't want to invest in that guy. So Kevin O'Leary then saying, hey, Bill Ackman, you're right about the guy. Yeah, I like that kid. I'm investing in him again. How? Why? Again, how is this man a prodigy? Which is fine to say, but how is he then a prodigy but doesn't know any of his own business ventures? That is strange. How is he a prodigy but wasn't prodigy enough as to where there's an $8 billion gap? I mean, it's, in my own opinion, very easy to inflate. If all of a sudden I decide to inflate all my numbers, I get fake people into my live stream every single day, I get fake subscribers, fake viewers and everything, all of a sudden everything looks great, it's still shit from the bottom, right? It's still garbage at the bottom of the tier. It's very easy to make things look good, but it's very hard to make them actually be good. And so what is Kevin O'Leary is kind of saying is like, that guy really knows how to make things good, not just make them look good, because it's a lot easier to make a company run on freaking thin air than to actually make it sturdy and run. So if it comes out that you made an $8 billion mistake, leaving 8 people out of $10 billion basically at the end of the day, well, you can't invest in that guy again, right? He's just, there's something very wrong here. And that again makes me, it all smells like some straight A garbage, in the sense that there's just some fraud going on. But again, I can't confirm that, but it is the way in which things seem. This guy was either an idiot or a fraudster. We don't know which of the two it is, but the fact that Kevin O'Leary is backing him again shows there's just still some big PR company going on in the background paying these guys to say this. It literally feels as if Kevin O'Leary has just been paid such a big check for FTX that he's like, I'm going to support this guy forever because I want him to win. Maybe FTX literally paid him $100 million for a little bit of ball sucking or something like that. I don't know exactly the details of that. But, or maybe Sam Bankman-Fried has some details on Kevin O'Leary. Maybe they went to some island party together, you know, a la Jeffrey style or something like that. And he's like, well, I got to defend this guy. I am not sure, but this is so strange. It is so weird. And yeah, it was a strange stream. BitBoy says, the full truth of FTX fraud scheme will never come out. If it did, some of us would end up dead. But the entire course of the future in the world of crypto has now been altered forever. It's true. As I said, things will move fast and will move hard. So be prepared for that. Be very prepared for that. It's all going to move pretty rapidly. Let's see what else we got here. If Sam is not arrested by the end of December, I want a large group, maybe 100 plus people, to come together who lost money in FTX, and we'll go to the Bahamas and protest outside government buildings, the Albany, and real estate properties until he is arrested. Who will join? I mean, I'd join for the memes. I'd join to report for you guys. Would you guys all tune in if I went to the Bahamas to report on the matter? Would you guys be here to support me with the likes and the whatever? Everybody, make sure you press that like button if you're enjoying these daily streams. I'm going to do a live stream every single day, guys. So make sure you always press that like button. It is greatly appreciated. Just press that like button. Right now, we can easily get 250 likes. Just press that button. Get those likes up there. And also, guys, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you press that notification bell on. I recommend you guys to always do that. But that would be interesting, though, actually going to the Bahamas just to see FTX, or Sam Bankman-Fried. But I don't think he's going to show up or do anything, right? Someone of you guys said in the chat box, just go get yourself an interview or something. I don't know. I think maybe I should just email them, but I think the backlog is already there. I should have texted him like a couple weeks ago, and maybe apparently we could have got an interview, but it doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem like that's really a possibility. Some places are just lucky, I guess. Some places are just lucky. A little bit about Hinman and XRP. I guess these things are also getting more and more interesting now. I have some thoughts on timing regarding the Hinman documents, the summary judgment motions, and the outstanding sealing issues. This is regarding XRP. Rather than typing it out on a long thread, I've written them in an attached document. Let's quickly read that. I'll do a further update on this tomorrow, I think, but just quickly. I have some thoughts on the Hinman documents and the outstanding sealing issues. I don't think we're going to see the references to the Hinman documents in the upcoming replies. To the extent the Hinman documents are referenced, I think the SEC will redact those references as they have in the past. I also don't think the judge will rule on sealing issues soon after January 9th, because it probably isn't how Judge Torres is going to approach the remainder of this case. There are 3 big issues outstanding: summary judgment motions, expert challenges, and sealing issues regarding the expert reports. The Hinman documents and other material relied on by the SEC and Ripple in their motions. What Judge Torres relies on in making her decision on the summary judgment motions will likely dictate what she will unseal. If the judge relies on a document in her decision, that document is considered judicial document, and then it will be disclosed. Now, so what does that mean? I think Judge Therese will work backwards. So first, she will draft her summary judgment ruling and identify any of those now sealed or redacted documents that she relied on to make her judgment. That's fair. If she relied on them, they will be disclosed and discussed in her ruling, and she would unseal them and make them available to the public. If she doesn't rely on the document in her decision, then the question of whether that document needs to be remain sealed becomes moot. And the same with the expert motions. If she doesn't rely on an expert in her summary judgment decision, there will be no need for her to address the motions to strike that expert's testimony. Makes sense. So that basically means she's going to make her decision on a couple of things first, and depending on whether or not she used that to make in some decision, then it's going to be made public for everybody to see. And if she did not use it, it will stay hidden, which I think is fine. Kryptonite says, thank Dusty, I got to go. One of my projects is growing legs. Casper, here, boy. Good luck, my brother. Good luck on that. My point is, why would Judge Therese slug through the expert motions and the sealing motions, including the sealing of hidden documents, separately before deciding what parts of them, if any, are relevant to deciding the summary judgment motion? I don't think she will. This is exactly what she did in the case involving Goldman Sachs that had sealing disputes, challenges to the expert, and motions for summary judgment. When she decides those issues, she did it at the same time, in one ruling, and in a footnote in that ruling. She basically said, if it's discussed here, in my opinion, it's a judicial document, I relied on it, and it will be made public. So I don't think we should expect a separate ruling on the sealing of any expert material, the hidden documents, or other material relied on by the parties. I believe that she will decide everything together, and it won't be until she rules on the motions for summary judgment, and it'll be in one big thing. All right. But guys, I want to kind of keep it at that. Man, this stream lasted way longer than I expected. I wanted to stream for about 30, 40 minutes. It's been 1 hour and 20 minutes. And I think everything that I say right now is going to be lost in the fact that it took too long. So even now that I'm talking about XRP, I will talk about this again tomorrow in a video or live stream. Because anything I say right now will be seen by you guys, but the majority of people will not see it again because not that many people watch an entire 1.5 hour stream afterwards, right? You guys understand that. So again, make sure you tune in for tomorrow's live stream again by just pressing that notification bell on. Again, and make sure you press the like button if you enjoyed it. We'll be here with another video up in the morning and actually a live stream later in the day. I think one video early in the morning and then a stream somewhere throughout the middle of the day. So tune in for that one. Tomorrow again. I'll just make sure I schedule it a little bit up front so you guys can see when that is going to be. But we'll discuss XRP for sure tomorrow. We'll discuss Chainlink for sure tomorrow, and a couple of inside pieces as to what I'm looking for in terms of investments and what I think is going to happen real soon. Just a couple of really cool pieces. And of course, if there's any more Sam Bankman-Fried drama, I'll cover it too. Even though a couple of you guys don't seem to like that, but I think it's important for our portfolios, so it will surely be covered. All right. If there's any coin you'd like me to cover as well, if there's any news you'd like me to cover, please, guys, please send it to me over on some method. YouTube is kind of difficult, so either send it to me over on Twitter, or let's actually get a little bit more active in the Telegram. Send me articles over in there, or even in Discord. We could actually make that more alive as well. I want to actually create more of a community where we can all just share stuff and connect more, because I think sometimes that it's more of a one-way thing, and I'd like to be more like back and forth. Again, I try to read every single tweet, and there's hundreds of them every single day that you guys send me. I try to read every single comment and press the heart on a lot of them as well. So I'd also like a more of a dialogue type of manner where you guys can send things back to me. And I think either Telegram is nice or Discord. So just join Telegram if you haven't done that yet, and let's talk, because I'm always in there checking anyway. And the same thing we could do for Discord, even though I'm not that active in there anymore. But yeah, that was it for right now, guys. See you guys again in another live stream tomorrow. Again, tune in every single day. It would be very much cool. And I'll see you guys again in another one. Peace out.